Hey y'all, my name is Jay Martin. Thanks for watching. This is Napoleon game. It's a 3v3 in Grassy. Generally, I don't like doing Grassy games. Uh, I just don't like the play in Grassy, but this is kind of an exception. The game that we played here was a really interesting one. It had some interesting moments to it, so I thought that I'd share it with y'all. And I think there was some interesting information here. Our team on the left side, that's Riskard, his YouTube channel. I'm sure you've seen. If you haven't, you should definitely check it out. There's a link to it somewhere on my channel page. I'm playing in the center, and on the right is Mahakar. Mahakar and I have very similar builds. What I'm doing, I'm playing the center, and there's two general theories about how you want to play in the center in a 3v3. I know I've made videos about this, but I choose to go infantry heavy and cav light. The alternative to that is to bring a lot of cav, like 6 cav in the center, and then you use that cav to help your partners to win their flank. And what's actually interesting in this game is our opponents are going to use that particular strategy. They're going to use a lot of the cav from their center player on to help attack the flank players. It's really a question of philosophy. My philosophy is more defensive kind of hold mentality. I'd rather have more infantry to support my partners with. This can change. A big part of that is that I trust my partners to be able to engage on the attack on the flank on their own without assistance, so I don't necessarily feel a need when I play with these guys to send them extra cav to make their attack successful. I kind of trust them to successfully attack on their own. It can go either way. That's kind of the way it is. So that's kind of my army composition. Is mostly infantry. I have 2 cav. Maha and I play fairly similar. He has an infantry heavy build. On the right there is GB, which if you're playing as GB is how you want to go. The infantry is of strength. That's what you're going to do. Our opponents are guys in the 666 clan, which I believe is a French clan and a very fine one. On the left side here, I believe is the guy who runs the clan. His name is Attila. He's a very fine player, very good Napoleon player. I forget to remember the name of the guy in the center. On the right side, I think is one of the more newer players in their clan, and you can tell his army composition is not good. He doesn't have any light infantry, and there's not a real lot of organization here. He's got grenadiers on Grassy. It's not a good plan. There's 3 grenadiers there. It's just not an ideal way. And the kind of writing on the wall when the player spawned was that Maha, just based on this guy's army composition, should be able to fuck him up pretty good. And behind, in the back of my head the whole time that this game was going on is that if we just buy enough time, that Maha should be able to break through on the right there where that guy is. And so this might make more sense when you watch the replay and watch what my actions were. That there were some instances where I could have been a little bit more aggressive in my particular theater of the game, but my general overarching theory was that if I'm just patient, let Maha win on the right. So that might explain the way this game goes down a little bit better than usual. Riskard and Attila get into a bit of a scrap here. Really props to the 666 clan. I'm not sure I completely agree with a lot of their army build choices. Very little cav from them, although it might have been a preset strategy. Their center player has, I think, 6 cav units. Is that 5? They're actually going to do some pretty good teamwork. I think this is a pretty solid clan, and they had some pretty solid ideas. And I love the build that Attila brought. No lights, just meat shields and French line. You can't get any more hardcore than that. And you're going to watch these guys get into an engagement now. So this is Riskard on the left and Attila on the left. And a little bit of a thing happens here with me. I can really only comment on what I was doing, but I was a little late. I should have had my line moved up a little quicker. I'm trying to do it right there to support Riskard's flank, but this Attila dude just fucking rolls in, and Honey Badger don't care. I mean, this guy just comes in like Risco to money or something. So they're getting in right now. A big firefight develops. Riss sends in Cav. It's probably the right time to send it. Looks like Attila's sending in Cav on the left here. I'll be honest, I was really impressed. I don't want to give away the punchline, but I was really impressed with how well Attila's army played out. This dude played pretty good. He got squares in where he needed to get the squares in. These Lancers there do a pretty good number on Riss's lights that let him get a little bit of firepower advantage there. I think maybe I'm getting shots on this guy, but Riss is already feeling the pain here. And, you know, I say this a lot, and I've wanted to make a video on this concept, but there's just a ton of variance in this game. Let me make a video on that later to say, but I think that this attack on the left flank is a really good example of that variance concept, that just sometimes things go your way, and I think that both players just ran up and shot at each other, and Attila's infantry is going to be better than Riskard's here, but Attila just really gets the lion's share of the kills at this point. And I thought he did a pretty good job. This is a really interesting battle here. I'm going to leave you on the engagement. Obviously, there's a big general engagement on the left. The interesting thing to note is that Cav from the center player here comes down under Riskard's line. I don't think this is the best charge in the world, but damn if it doesn't fucking work. The game really took a substantial turn right now when this Cav got in, and notice the two players are coordinating well, that Attila is matching the advance from that Prussian Cav with his own line, and that Cav really fucks Riskard up pretty good. There's something to be said that as the center player, if all the Cav resources shift this direction, that obviously that they're weakened in the center, and that I should take advantage of that. More on that concept in a minute. But this Cav, this Prussian Cav that comes down, it just does a hell of a number on Riskard. And really good teamwork from the 666 guys on that. And they're not afraid to push the advantage either. They're really not afraid to push the advantage. So what I want to do is leave you with that look at Riskard's flank. And I want to bring you over. Me in the center, I'm having kind of a general firefight. I'm holding a little bit over there. You can see me shifting another resource that direction. And then what's going on Mahakar's side is, apologies to Maha, I didn't show a whole lot of his action, but he's beating his guy pretty good. His guy wasn't terribly good at the game, and his lights are just pounding the fuck out of him. What we did do is we managed to create an interesting salient here. I feel like we took more advantage of this than our opponents did, or we really created an opportunity for an opponents to occupy a position here, and I felt like they didn't. I think the center player was a little too cautious engaging where he should have right there. Now, Maha and I kind of debated over this while the game was going on, and we didn't really have an opportunity for me to turn around and flank the French player there. This is really an awkward situation that Maha and I created. Yeah, obviously this little V right there that we've made. And we're really vulnerable here, and we really got lucky that our opponents didn't come in. There's a real opportunity for them to just position some units there, and with these French units there, that they could have enveloped this, and we're really lucky that they didn't. Our problem was that we weren't able to really take much advantage of this. Like, the whole idea was for me to wrap a line around the French guy, or him to wrap a line around the Prussian guy, and we weren't able to do that. I believe that we get in the square. Or actually, I think Maha gets in the square, but he switches targets to me, and I think I missed the square there. So a more good Cav work from that center Prussian player. But this is the scene on Maha's side, and kind of as I predicted, Maha is winning pretty good there. So back to the holistic concept of the idea was that Maha was probably going to be able to wrap up his French opponent pretty quick on the right there, but things kind of went bad for us on the left, and Riss had a bunch of trouble there. So then the question really becomes one of time. And I mentioned this concept a lot, but it becomes, okay, so again, we have a symmetrical game that we're having advantage on the right and they're having advantage on the left. And it becomes a question of who can enforce the quotient of time the best, or who can win on their side the fastest, right? Now, there's two elements in the concept of time. The first is that, well, let me repeat, there's three concepts. The first is the situational awareness of being like, dude, I got to get the fuck out of here. I'm getting my ass kicked. And I think that Riskard has noticed this on the left, and you see he's withdrawn to a pretty stable line there. This player, however, is not. This player should be withdrawing because of this really dangerous area that we're threatening to create. We can't really exploit it yet. We can't exploit this little breach yet, but they have a very uneven kink in their line here. This is bad from a strategic concept. You want to avoid this, and eventually we're going to be able to take advantage of it. If we can get rid of these two units here, then we're going to be able to do some real damage and wrap around this Prussian guy. Okay, and these units down here are in a bad position because they don't have anywhere to retreat to. Okay, so the concept of situational awareness, the converse is Riskard has withdrawn to a very sustainable position here. His units are all kind of in line with mine there, right? So maybe the difference here is, both sides were losing on a flank, but our side managed, Risk got to manage his loss a little bit better. And as a result, you're going to watch what happens over here is these French units just get surrounded and get crushed. I'm able to push my second cav unit in and just complete the rout of the French army. And we rout about, 10 French units willy-nilly, really fucking quick. And again, to draw the comparison, so that French army that looked to be about in the same position as Riskard a few minutes ago, Riskard has withdrawn his army in a timely manner and is now able to put up some resistance, right? But back over here, this guy is just fucking dead. And that means that Maha is going to be able to shift his army up here onto the flank of the center player. Now, this is a huge development for us because, while Riskard's army is mostly dead, if you look right there, you see that is me moving one of my reserve infantry units. I had two there guarding my lights. All their cav is dead, so I don't need line to guard my lights anymore. So what I'm able to do is start shifting line units over this direction towards Riskard. Okay, that's a huge difference in how this game plays. I mean, this game is won, I would argue, by how both teams manage their losing side. Our losing player, Riss, managed his army very well in retreat. Okay? Their losing player, the French guy over here, did not manage, and as a result, his army got routed very, very quickly. Okay, and I think that is substantially the difference. And so you notice that already my line units are taking up, occupying a lot of this leftmost Attila's French army that we're having a problem with, and now both units are moving this direction. I have this unit that's kind of hovering around, ready to come back in there. Now, Attila's actually doing a pretty good job of pressing the attack on this flank, maybe a little too aggressively. I think his general's going to die here pretty soon, but he's doing his job, and this might be a victim of circumstance. Like, Attila's put in a bad position. When the right player dies, he has to continue the attack this direction, right? That's kind of his only option for hope. But the problem is he's running out of time because I'm able to push two more fresh line units. These guys haven't, really been engaged, they're pretty much full strength. And these two line units here are, combined with all the resources we have, are pretty much enough to blunt the attack that's coming this direction. In the meantime, from a big picture, we're able to put, this is the remains of the center of my army, and Maha coming up on this side to beat the shit out of this center Prussian player. Now, I didn't play this terribly well. I'm going to give you a little heads up. I didn't play terribly well here. But what I thought was really interesting about this game, or what I thought what made this game unique, is that I think that a lot of the little tactical decisions that got made, at least a lot of the decisions that I made in the center, were made purely on strategic basis. So I think that I wasted maybe two and a half line units from just rushing up to engage the center guy. I didn't show this on the camera. I was zoomed in other areas, but there are a couple of attacks that I made up the center that weren't necessarily good ideas, but they're necessary because they pinned the Prussian guy in place, which gave us time on the right for Maha to do his thing, or time for Maha to advance there. And maybe I should redo this recording to show those, but I thought that was interesting. So here we are, we're at a position, and honestly, the armies have kind of a weird formation here. What I think our team should have done is withdrawn, form a new line. I think we outnumber them pretty good at this point. Over on the left, I try to start to make that happen, and what I try to do is get my units here arranged in a line along this road. Riss and I were a little awkward about this because our units were overlapping a bit. We could have done this better, I think. And the presence of these like 3 Prussian units here were kind of weird. This game was really laggy, by the way. That's why you're seeing these units move so fucking slow, because I just couldn't give the run command to them. So what we're able to do is notice that I've taken up a line here, completely holding off the French players. So Riscard and I have switched positions, and I've moved reserve infantry over to cover his flank that he wasn't able to hold. And from that, we're now using Riscard to attack up the center on these Prussian units. And I thought that was a very interesting way that we were able to do that, to kind of switch positions and move on the fly and everything. And currently at this point, we've got the opponent armies split into 2 groups here, and what we're trying to do now is I'm trying to work up into the gap here with my lights, and then that's Maha coming up the right. So that's kind of what's going on right now, and I can probably just let you do it. Let's take a look at my guys in the road. These guys are pretty healthy, and they're going to put a beat down on those French troops. And Riscard is just moving his infantry where he can. So that's what we're doing now. My guys take the hit. Riss moves in to fill my spot on the line. And eventually I think we're going to hit sort of a stalemate. A little unfortunate for us. If you look in the back, a lot of that French infantry that we've already routed once is going to come back. Despite the fact that their general's dead. Maybe their general unit just routed and they didn't exactly take the morale penalty for that, which is something I really wish they'd fix in the game. Just release a patch to deal with that. So, but there is a pretty good strength of guys there. We're able to match them pretty evenly. Again, I have more. I'm pulling more reserves this direction to keep these guys in check. And maybe that's the name of the game. Maybe an important lesson from this game is that you got to be nimble with where you're moving. If you realize that we have overwhelming force on this area of the field, that frees me to move units to another area of the field. This is kind of the interesting part of the Grassy game. I'm not a huge fan of the Grassy Flatlands, but you do wind up in some interesting situations. It is more of a chess match in a lot of circumstances. I think that the 666 team at this point doesn't really have a lot of options. I think the game is lost for them at this point. Obviously, the encirclement of the Prussian here is not going to go very well, and I think maybe if they had a shot, the French players should have been attacking about a minute or 2 minutes ago. By the time my little depleted reserve units get back in line to fill that gap, a lot of the opportunity for them is lost, and you notice there I'm able to start switching my lights over to that section of the line. So I think the game is probably lost for them here, but yeah, I thought it was an interesting game. I thought that they played really well. The attack from Attila over here, and then the attack from Maha to take out their French player was pretty telling. And that's it. I guess I'll watch you, or excuse me, I'll let you watch the rest of the game just in a little FF right now. And it seems like there's not a whole lot excuse me, not a whole lot for them to be able to do right now. So there you go. That's kind of the end of the game. Maha has line guys way back here that he's not even able to put into the line. One thing I was really psyched about is that I had saved a cav unit. I have a Dragoon about half strength. I cannot emphasize enough how powerfully strong it is to just be the last person with a cav unit. At the end of the game, if you have a cav unit left, that's really, really strong for two reasons. A, you chase down routing units so they don't come back. How many games have been decided by routing units that come back? Um, Chase down routers if you can. And the second thing is that when a unit gets below 50 and it can't square, and the game's really even, but you got that cav unit, you charge that unit, cause it to route, you route that one extra unit that they've got, and that's the difference between life and death. It really is. So you want to save your cav units as much as you can. At this point of the game, I think they actually started bitching to. I wasn't really following the chat, but I think they were bitching about me just sitting here or something like that. And in my mind, it was very obvious that we were going to win on the upper side of the map here, the right side of the map. So I didn't really feel, even though maybe I technically outnumbered him here, I didn't really feel any reason to engage there because I could just wait for Maha to cruise to the right and then kill him. So I guess people are gonna talk their shit or whatever. So I didn't really follow that exactly, so I might have misinterpreted it, but it kind of seemed like that's kind of what they were complaining about. But you know, if we're gonna win on the right and hold on the left, then I'm gonna hold on the left, man. It's just kind of a reality. Um, and yeah, that's the deal. So anyway, that is the end of the game. GG guys. A nice game. I thought it was a really really interesting game between the old 666 clan. I believe they're French. I'm not really sure. I believe they're a bunch of Frenchies. So anyway, GG to those guys. And Mahakar put up just a stellar performance, man. Over 2,000 kills. You don't see that very often. And all of them. The opponents did really good, except for I guess this guy that was on the far right. So you know, but the rest of them outkilled. You know, these two guys outkilled Rissenai. So good for them. And anyway, I thought it was a good game, and GG guys, advanced huntsman, man, salute. All right, I'll check you later. Bye.